Well, Queensland Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk is being urged by business leaders to visit the Gold Coast and see firsthand the damage caused by her refusal to reopen the borders. Now, members of the Goldies Chamber of Commerce are calling on Palaszczuk to reopen the borders in the hope of saving the city's $6 billion tourism industry. What tourism? Joining me now for our panel, Executive Director at the Menzies Research Centre, Nick Cater in Sydney, while PR Council Principal Christy McSweeney joins us from Melbourne. Welcome to you both.
Well, hi, Chris, how are you? Hello, Nick. Nice to see you again.
Hello. Good to see you, Christy.
Good to have you with us. Now, after the Queensland Premier's Julia Gillard impersonation yesterday, I will not be lectured to by that woman in New South Wales. Business people on the Gold Coast have rightly shot back. This is the problem. These premiers are living in bubbles. They're holding these daily press conferences, but are they getting out seeing the pain, Nick Cater?
Look, what more ways can they find to try and kill our economy, right? I mean, the Tweed Heads Gold Coast region, as we know, operates as one big settled area. And look, somebody pointed out to me today that the border between the two states actually runs through the runway at Coolangatta Airport. So I say as a New South Welshman, let's have our half of the runway back. I mean, it's crazy. The whole thing's crazy. And for what reason? Who knows?
It is crazy. And when you think about the fact that with 8 million people in New South Wales, she keeps looking over the border saying, oh, it's all bad, they've got a big problem. Has she read any news from other parts of the world, Christy?
I think she's probably reading the news from Victoria, Chris. It's getting cold here in Melbourne, and if that Queensland border opens, there will be a mass exodus of people from Melbourne into Queensland. But look, Gold Coast, $25 billion economy. 92% of their tourism is domestic tourism, and they've forecasted a $4.5 billion loss if this goes into September. So it is hugely significant.
It's a suicide note, really is. The longer she holds on, it is a dead-set suicide note. And for some people, that could be literally. Let's hope that isn't the case. Nick Cater, big announcement this afternoon by the New South Wales Premier. She's going in the other direction, reopening, and this time using this people-to-space ratio. This is smart stuff. She's thinking like a business person.
Yes, look, it's a step in the right direction, but I'd like to see it go further, Chris. I think we are all really ready for the economy to start opening up in a serious way. And the trouble with putting this limit on, 50 people, it's an arbitrary limit, right? I mean, some pubs, clubs, restaurants will be able to take more than that.
Yeah.
And yet they won't be able to. I think there's... I just think that $4 billion a week, that was Treasurer Josh Frydenberg's figure. We've got to start taking a few risks. Government has. We've flattened the curve, and if there is a second wave, you can bet your bottom dollar we'll be ready for it, and it'll be smaller than the first. Not that there's any indication from anywhere in the world that there's been a serious second wave anywhere. We are ready to open up the economy with the international borders closed. Let's do it.
Yeah. It could be a real great reversal of fortunes for this country. It could be a great bonus trying to fight back. Now, Christy, what is the mood in Victoria about Daniel Andrews' handling of restrictions lifting? I get the feeling he's at snail's pace at the moment, isn't he?
Oh, I think, look, he has dug in against the federal government on a number of issues. In terms of a PR problem for Daniel Andrews, he was widely lauded by the nation's media as the Premier who's handled this the best way. I personally believe that's Mark McGowan out of Western Australia. However, there's a tipping point because we now have huge discrepancies in terms of what's happening in New South Wales and the economy opening up to what we do have in Victoria. And they both had equal amounts of cases. They were pretty much on par. There's equal amounts of people in hospital. New South Wales is pointing to let's get the show on the road, and Victoria is still very much stuck lagging behind.
This all boils down to me, though, with what you wrote yesterday, Nick Cater, in The Australian, about the fact that they are trying to seek some kind of ridiculous perfection in handling COVID-19. There's no such thing as perfection in everything we do. We take risks each and every day, don't we?
We absolutely do, and let's not forget where this began, Chris. We began because we began with the lockdown because we were seriously worried in late March that we would have our intensive care units would be swamped, overwhelmed as they have been in Europe. That was why we did it. We didn't do it so that nobody would catch COVID-19. You can't actually achieve that. That's why we did it. We've done that brilliantly thanks to what the federal government has done, thanks to what Greg Hunter's done, increasing the number of beds, thanks to people being sensible, thanks to shutting the borders. We have achieved the policy aim. Now is the time to let the economy open up.
And let's not underestimate, Christy, the fact that we do have well in excess of 6 million people have downloaded the COVID Safe app. So if we were to allow people to travel within Australia, we can track them over borders. The borders are just meaningless.
Of course we can, and there's a number of systems that integrate health departments and hospital records and police records of everybody in Australia. I think it is ridiculous that we have border closures, we have some premiers holding out, we have others having 50 seats available in a restaurant and small business going to rack and ruin here in Victoria. And Victoria needs the money. You know, of course, it doesn't have a financial base like Sydney does. It's no longer got a manufacturing base. Its key sectors of international education and tourism are decimated through this, and you would think Premier Andrews would be chomping at the bit to get the businesses that can open to flood money back into the economy. Yeah,
well, he's never run a business by the sound of it, and he's got no skin in the game. I want to just lastly talk about this decentralisation call today. I hear it, Nick Cater, over and over again. One of the answers is to send people to the bush. You've got to incentivise these people, though, don't you? Or what other way do we do it?
I'm all for it, and look, we need good road, we need good rail with these cities that are, you know, within 100, 200 kilometres of Sydney or Melbourne. That's great, but look, I really think this is a bit overblown. Right now, there's a lot of people like me that would like to be out there amongst the cows and the fields, but I tell you what, you know, dustmen can't move to Goulburn if they're servicing Sydney. You know, I mean, this is a story for the professional middle class. It's not a story for most of Australia.
Yeah, Christy, you can't see a wave of people going to the bush, but you can see some of our country towns dying. We've got to do more about that. And I don't know what it is, but we've got to incentivise people, and in particular, people who are new to the country, don't we?
Well, Chris, the incentive's there. A house in Sydney is $1 million and 11 times the average salary. So I don't think we need to incentivise people. It is there. Victoria's a great state to do that. In Bendigo, Ballarat, Geelong, our regional cities, there's no fast trains, but I think they're coming. New South Wales is a bit harder, of course, places like Armidale and Tamworth, a bit further away from the capital. However, yeah, look, this is a white-collar bubble, and I'll tell you who hates working at home: women with children. Because they are working at home, doing their jobs and looking after the kids, and their husband has set up in the spare room with the door locked saying, oh, this is my office. That's what I'm hearing from my girlfriends who've got kids at home working from home. They want to go back to the office.
Stop peeking in our window at home, Christy McSweeney. Thank you very much.
See?
Thank you. Have a great weekend. You too, Nick Cater.
Thanks, Chris.
Good on you.
Thank you, Chris.